When you think Pisa, you think Leaning Tower, but do you think about the old town, river, and crowds of tourists? In this episode, I am going to show you the best way to enjoy Pisa by avoiding the crowds. I'll take you around its charming streets, pop in some food tips, and explore the Arno River. I'll share the very best thing to climb in the city. Spoiler, it's not the tower. It's impossible to catch a bus from Pisa Airport to the city centre, so stick around because at the end of this episode I'll show you how to avoid expensive taxis and the very best way to make your way to the heart of Pisa. We loved Pisa and it deserves so much more time than a few hours by the tower. Subscribe to follow our adventures around Europe and the UK. Pisa is a city in Italy's Tuscany region, and most visitors flock here to view its iconic Leaning Tower. You really do have to see it in real life to understand its mesmerising, bending beauty, but we soon realised it was too crowded to really appreciate it for most of the day, so we decided to take a step back away from the crowds by climbing Pisa's city walls. The best entrance is on the main square. At 11 metres high, the walls surround Pisa's main square and extend 3 kilometres around the city. Once you have your ticket, you can leave and get back on the wall at 4 different points to explore different parts of Pisa. From the top you are rewarded with a unique perspective of Pisa, and you pass over the 4 city gates. The city walls are among some of the most ancient ones in Italy and offer a peaceful variety of views over Pisa, including fantastic views of the Cathedral, Baptistry and the tower. The lion was originally meant to strike fear into the hearts of anyone entering Pisa through the nearby city gate, which was the main entrance to the city during the Middle Ages. During Florentine rule, the lion was moved and turned to face inwards to underline the city's submission. It's now near the Jewish cemetery, which was established in 1674 and is still used to this day. Climbing the tower costs around €25, whereas the city wall costs €5. Carl enjoyed walking around the city walls, and he has a rule whereby he won't pay more than €8 to climb something. Included in the ticket price, it's also possible to climb Piazza Tower. It's now part of a leading university centre, but this industrial complex was a textile factory until the 1970s.
It's really narrow.
It served as a water tower, keeping the pressure high in the busy factory pipes. It was an unexpected climb and had great views out to the mountains and across the city. L'Angolo del Caffè was a fantastic little independent restaurant on a quiet street, and we enjoyed some homemade pasta and tiramisu served in a cute pair of teacups. For steak, go to Il Peperoncino. This might not look much, but this panino was hands down the best one I have ever had. La Borsa is a good place to stop for a coffee near Pisa Centrale train station. The Leaning Tower is located in Piazza de Miracoli, alongside the Baptistry and Duomo. It is actually a freestanding bell tower for the cathedral. In many Italian cities, you'll find the Duomo's bell tower is next to the building, alongside a Baptistry in the same square. Together, the Baptistry, Cathedral and Tower is one of the most breathtaking architectural complexes in the world, so there's no wonder that so many people flock to admire it. While beautiful and unusual, it is exceptionally crowded for most of the day, with queues of people trying to take the perfect selfie and waiting to climb it. If you want to avoid the crowds, it's best to visit early in the morning or late evening, and to spend peak visitor times exploring other parts of the city. The tower was already leaning when it was completed in 1372. It took 170 years to be built due to delays caused by the subsidence, which was causing the tower to tilt. At one point, construction work was paused for a century, and when the work was continued, one side was deliberately built taller than the other to try to stabilise the structure. The angle has changed over the years, and after further stabilisation work during the 1990s, the current angle is nearly 4 degrees. There are 296 or 294 steps to the top, depending on the staircase you take on the 7th floor, and I enjoyed climbing the tower back in 2006, so I didn't feel as though I missed out on anything during this trip. If you're visiting for just one day, my advice would be to climb the city walls instead of the tower, because you'll be able to see much more of the city. Our apartment was very near the Piazza, and we visited at night when most of the day trippers had gone home. The buildings were beautifully lit and they looked very impressive. It's definitely worth spending time walking along the Arno River. There are so many interesting buildings running along both sides. The same river flows through Florence. I'll add a link to my episode about Florence in the video description. It was a popular spot for people to hang out and admire the sunset. When we're exploring a city, we like to keep an eye out for its vintage vehicles, like this bright yellow Vespa and red Fiat 500. Pisa is so loved for its tower that its charming streets, beautiful buildings and squares are often overlooked, and I think it's a real shame because exploring them was so enjoyable. I'll show you some of them now. For us, Pisa was a gateway to the rest of Tuscany, a direct way of arriving from our local airport in Bristol, England. However, we were completely blown away by our time here and would definitely love to return. Of course, we couldn't visit everything here in just 48 hours, so if you have any recommendations, please do let me know, as we'll definitely go back. Coming up is the best way to get from Pisa Airport to the city centre. I'll cover everything you need to know before landing in Pisa. When you land in Pisa, you will pass through security. You will exit through this gate, and there is an exit directly in front of you. Take this exit. There's very little signage, so follow me to see exactly where you need to go for the best way of travelling to the city centre. Turn left when you leave the building and continue walking along the pavement running alongside the airport building. You'll pass numerous restaurants and different exits. If you needed to pass through the airport, you might have left from this exit. Continue walking along the building. We're currently bypassing the taxi ranks to our right. We never catch a taxi when we arrive for a couple of reasons. One, it's the most expensive mode of transport, and number two, you get a much better introduction to a place if you take the public transport. Not only will you get a feel for the way the transport system works, which will be useful for the rest of your trip, you'll also experience how locals move around the city, and that's all part of the culture. Where possible, we always try to catch a local bus or train. However, that's not possible in Pisa. What you have to do is
you follow the yellow brick road,
and that will take you to the Pisa Mover. The Pisa Mover is a dedicated cable car train taking you all the way to the city centre. You need to go up a level to buy your tickets and access the platform. We took the lift. You buy your tickets from these dedicated machines, and we helped this gentleman purchase his and pass through the barrier.
and it costs €6.50 for a single ticket, or you can get a return, and it's all automated, so once you're here you use the machine, get it.
You can select the language that you need, and the first question will be whether you need a single or return.
We need 2.
We needed 2 single tickets.
And then you can pay with cash or card.
There's a QR code on the ticket and you use that to pass through the barrier. I'll show you more about that later. The Pisa Mover is a really efficient service. I'll take you on it now, and then I'll show you what you need to do once you arrive at Pisa Central Station. To get to the city centre, you will need to stay on the Pisa Mover for 2 stops. Next, I'll show you what you need to do when you arrive at Pisa train station. Stay tuned because it is pretty confusing. There's very little signage about, which is the case around a lot of Italy. You will exit the Pisa Mover just here and get your ticket ready because you'll need the QR code to go through the barriers to exit. Most of the scanners are at the top, but some are actually on the sides, so keep an eye out. The closest exit is here, but do not leave through this exit if you are heading towards the city centre. Instead, what you'll need to do is to head underground by following this pathway. As you're in the central station, you'll pass through staircases and lifts that head to other platforms. Take the final one and go back up, and this is where you need to exit. There was quite a bit of building work going on while we were there, but I'll show you what the front of the station looks like now. You'll leave from this exit and you'll find yourself at the front of the train station. From here you'll be ready to explore Pisa. The QR scanner's on the side. There's an arrow, it's on the side. Blimey!
It was like
On the side.
I did it on the side. Like next to where the arrow is.
Next time we're in Florence, subscribe for tips on how to enjoy this busy city. Ciao!